First, opening statement speakers, please report to the debate platform. Judges, are you ready?
Yes.
And timekeeper, are you ready?
Yes.
Teams, are you ready?
Yes.
Remember the signal. Thank you.
Oh.
Intelligent Devil Squad, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement. You may begin now.
What is GameStop? What is GameStop without games? You walk into your favorite store at GameStop and you see that Call of Duty, one of your favorite games, is banned. Why are these games banned? California has been fed information from Craig Anderson that violent video games cause violent behavior, but they don't. And the U.S. Court of Appeals said that. They had a decision on June 27, 2011, stating a decision to 7-2, saying that violent video games do not cause violent behavior. Also, researchers from the University of Oxford and the University of Rochester conducted a study where it showed volunteers playing violent video games and non-violent video games at high and low levels of difficulty. It showed that in both groups, they both had aggression, but aggression is not violence. Aggression means means angry or violent feelings, which is different from violence because it means when you mistreat someone in a harmful way. And to become violent from aggression, you would have to have an extra push. For example, you would have to have no parental figure tell you right from wrong, or watch violent movies, or watch a violent TV show. Even the U.S. Court of Appeals had something to say about it. They had a majority vote, 3-0, saying that they cannot prove a link between violent video games and harm to minors. After the U.S. Court of Appeals, the appeals court and the University of Oxford and Rochester has stated that violent video games do not cause harm to minors. There is nothing else to say that violent video games cause harm to minors. As my opponent might say that Craig Anderson says in his research that violent video games do cause harm to minors, think about this. If he stated false evidence in the U.S. Supreme Court, how else would you see it if he might say false evidence in other places? And that is some stuff there. And you should, and this is all of mine. And for all the other arguments in our team, you should think about how violent video games do not cause harm to minors.
Okay. The Untouchables, your 3-minute opening statement begins now.
Hello and welcome, judges. The question, do violent video games cause violent behavior? Let's explore this topic. A study done in 2008 called Grand Theft Childhood proved that there were correlations or connections between violent gameplay and violent behavior. M-rated or mature-rated games showed that there was twice the risk of aggression or violent behavior. Aggression is hitting, punching, or being in a dangerous mood at school or around your peers. It also stated that a mind-boggling 60%, that's 3 in 5 teenagers who played mature-rated games engaged in violent behavior or aggression the next day. Another study done at Iowa State University concludes that violent media, such as TV, internet, or video games, contribute greatly to violent behavior because they reward acts of violence. A study done by social psychologist and professor at Iowa State University, Craig A. Anderson, concludes that video games teach aggression and violence as a good conflict-solving strategy. If one plays a violent video game, then he or she will be influenced to use violence in any social situation. Another long-term effect of playing violent video games is learning how to perceive or respond to a physical or social situation. He also found that since video games often reward violence, many gamers feel that it is a good way to get what you want in life. Studies suggest that games where violence is rewarded cause more aggressive behavior than nonviolent games. Also, Violent video games teach the gamer that pleasure is associated with causing harm or pain in someone else. A study done by Brad Bushman, a professor of social communication at Ohio State University, showed that the students who played video games for more than 20 minutes every 3 days showed increasingly violent behavior than those who played nonviolent video games. Other research that was conducted by Brad Bushman found that people who played first-person shooting games where you are shooting targets as the player, were more accurate than those who play nonviolent games with firing a real gun. Another example that proves my point is Adam Lanza, the one who shot 20 students and 6 faculty members in Sandy Hook Elementary School. He admitted to playing several violent video games as his training ground for his massacre at school. He played Call of Duty as well as Doom, which are both mature-rated, very violent video games featuring first-person shooting. So, as you can see, all of these arguments support my point. So, I'd like all of you to ask yourself a question. Do violent video games cause violent behavior? The proven answer is yes. Thank you.
You may step forward and shake hands and return to your teams. You have 1 minute to prepare for a first rebuttal.
I'm good, thank you.
Bring that up.
Use the highlights.
Rebuttal 1. Intelligent Double Squad, you have 1 minute for your rebuttal.
As my adversary might say, violent video games do cause violent behavior, but today I'm here to prove that they don't. In a new study, Dr. Christopher Ferguson and Sarah Olson discovered violent video games such as Mortal Kombat, Halo, and Grand Theft Auto did not cause high-risk teens to become aggressive bullies or delinquents. In fact, a study published in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence, researchers found that playing violent video games actually had a slight calming effect with teens with attention deficit disorders and helped to reduce aggressive and bullying behavior. This study is important to whether or not violent video games fuel behavioral aggression and societal violence among youth, especially among those with pre-existing mental health problems. Societal violence includes behaviors such as bullying, physical fighting, criminal assaults, and even homicide. The news media often draws a link from the playing of violent video games to the perpetrators of school shootings. Thank you.
The Untouchables. 1 minute rebuttal.
Hello, I'm here to say that violent video games do cause violent behavior. In 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold had an assault at a school, and they killed 16 people. They said that they played violent video games including Doom, Call of Duty, and Grand Theft Auto. This was the main reason why they shot the kids at the school. Another example is the Adam Lanza at Sandy Hook. He shot and killed 16 kids, and he played Call of Duty, Doom, Grand Theft Auto, and other violent games. And he had a script-like video game. And this is real life, and aggressive behavior is one cause of why. Thank you.
You may return to your teams. You have 1 minute to prepare for second rebuttal.
Highlighter, please.
They all did
Rebuttal 2. Intelligent Devil Squad. You have a 1-minute rebuttal beginning now.
Hello. As my adversary said about the shootings, they didn't have any proof of it. Playing violent video games reduces violence in maturing boys by serving as a substitute for rumble and tumble play. Playing violent video games allows adolescent boys to express aggression and establish status in their peer groups without causing any physical pain or harm. Playing violent video games provides a safe outlet for aggressive and angry feelings. A 2000 study reported that 45% of boys played video games because it helped them get their anger out. 62% played it because it helped them relax. Thank you.
The Untouchables. Your 1-minute rebuttal begins now.
Italian researchers did a study in 2014 on the effects of violent video games. They took 172 high school students and divided them in half. One half played violent video games, the other half did not. After 35 minutes of playing each assigned game, they took a test on common moral values. Some of the questions on this test, answered by the violent video game players, were very similar to the following. Compared to other illegal things, shoplifting is not as serious, and it is okay to insult other classmates because beating and causing physical pain is far less worse. This experiment is designed to grade the thoughts of aggression and the tendency to cheat. Thank you.
You may return to your teams. You have 1 minute to prepare for final rebuttal. Rebuttal 3. Intelligent Devil Squad, you have 1 minute for your final rebuttal.
A 2004 study has showed that violent video games do not cause violence. A 2004 U.S. Secret Service review of previous school attacks have shown that violent video games did not cause this. They studied this as 1/8 of the attackers had not played violent video games. Violent video games are considered as fun and challenging. Because of this, more people play violent video games. Exposure to violent video games has not been shown to be to have proof of showing violent behavior. Thank you.
The Untouchables. The rebuttal begins now.
As my adversaries have said, violent video games do not cause violent behavior. Instead, it is a substitute for real violence, and they use it to get their anger out. However, violent video games still do influence people to use violence in a social situation. Violent video games often show kids or gamers that violence is a way to get what they want. Several FBI reports, including the one in 2000 FBI, includes violent video games list of behaviors associated with school shootings. An example of a school shooting is linked to video games is the Sandy Hook shooting by Adam Lanza. There are several other cases of this, as well as the shooting at Amish Schoolhouse. These are all related to violent video games, and they are an extreme cause in today's juvenile violent crime. Thank you.
You may return to your teams. You have 2 minutes now to prepare for your closing statements. All teams should be strategizing together to prepare for your closing statements.
I might give them again. We have the time at the end, just have people that should speak and field a little question from the judges.
Read it and get in your head and paraphrase. I have slides. I have a
I didn't say the back or the That's a good.
Closing speakers. Closing speakers. Intelligent Devil Squad, you will have 3 minutes to make your closing statement, beginning now.
As my esteemed opponent stated, violent video games do cause violent behavior, but there are many other factors that create violence. In the news, we see terrorists, suicides, wars, gang shootings, and natural disasters. Sports, there are fights breaking out, auto wrecks, boxing, and UFC. In movies, American Sniper is the top grossing war movie. Unbroken, Fury. Even in the SpongeBob movie, which is supposed to be family friendly, contains violence. In everyday life, we see muggings, car accidents, robberies, street fights, and verbal violence such as racist remarks, swearing, and even teasing. TV. According to Time magazine, people spend on average 2.77 hours every day watching TV, and only 0.43 hours on computers and digital games. Let me repeat that. 2.77 hours on TV and 0.43 on digital games. YouTube. Violence is just a click of a button away, and the button isn't going to click without your permission. Violence is everywhere. We are consumed by violence.
Every day we must use our ability of filtering this violence through our minds. This ability of filtering this violence is simply called mental illness. And as my opponent might say, yes, Adam Lanza did shoot in real life and in video games. But he also had this mental illness that caused him to have the disability of being able to filter it. To blame violent video games as an excuse to become violent is a cheap way out. Because violence is all around us. Violence is internal. It is inside all of us. The responsibility of controlling the violence is inside of us, not the game. Violent video games are just another victim of excuses. We try to place blame on something other than ourselves. We live in a world of excuses. It is never our fault. It's always about somebody or something made me do it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to stop the blame game. And it is time for all of us to take responsibilities of our own actions. No more excuses. Thank you.
The Untouchables, you have 3 minutes to make your closing statement, beginning now.
Children, teens, and adults now have access to iPhones, iPads, tablets, and computers, and very often violent video games. A survey of 1,102 young adults found that 97 had played a violent video game in the past day. Adam Lanza is one of the most known examples for violent actions being linked to violent video games. Although he did have a mental disorder, many people, although we may not know, do have mental issues, and violent video games can just trigger that mental and influence that mental issue in an unsafe way. Adam Lanza had just been playing a violent video game before he decided to go to Sandy Hook, kill 20 children and 6 adults, and then himself, and also his mother. You may think, well, he probably didn't just decide to do that very bad action just in a split second while he's playing his favorite violent video games. It took preparation, but his preparation was playing these violent video games. Many troops and soldiers prepare themselves for war by playing violent video games, so they will get used to what they're about to do. And if children who have children like to mimic people they see on TV or they hear about on the news. So if children are allowed to be playing these violent video games with a high level of violence, how is this supposed to teach them right from wrong? Again, Adam Lanza was training by playing his violent video games, much like the soldiers do for war. In 2008, 60% of the boys who played M-rated or mature-rated video games hit or beat up someone. Violent video games teach youth that is acceptable for conflict-solving solutions. In 2000, 21% of the games were found to feature abusement towards females. Video games reward players for violent actions. This is very impressionable on young minds. As I said before, children like to mimic older people that they will look up to and try to be like. This is dangerous towards a young mind, and it can only get more dangerous as modern technology increases and becomes more better on the charts, and more money comes in because more children are buying more video games. What do you think? Do violent video games cause violent behavior? Thank you.
Great, you may shake hands and return to your teams. You may discuss with each other before we have questions from the judges. About 2 minutes.